Hey everyone, it's Emma. I'm so excited to share something with you today that genuinely brightened my whole day. You know those days when you just wake up feeling a bit blah? Well, I was having one of those this morning. Everything felt a little heavy, and I just couldn't seem to shake it off. I was scrolling through my phone, almost mindlessly, and then, bam! I stumbled across this motivational quote, and honestly, it felt like magic. It was exactly what I needed to hear. It talked about embracing challenges and finding strength within yourself, and it resonated with me so deeply. I actually took a screenshot of it and I've been looking at it all day. It completely shifted my perspective. You will not believe the difference it made. This little quote totally turned my day around. It reminded me of the power of positive thinking and how much our mindset can impact everything. And you know what? I just had to share it with you. So, let's begin our exciting journey of English improvement together. I release new videos daily focusing on English speaking and listening skills to help you improve and enjoy your learning journey. Okay, so, you are never going to believe this story about a car cover. A car cover, of all things. You'd think it would be the most mundane purchase ever, right? Like buying socks. But oh no, this turned into an epic saga. Grab a cuppa, because this is going to take a while. It all started with Betsy. Betsy is my baby, my vintage cherry red 1967 Mustang. She's more than a car. She's a dream, a time machine, a piece of my soul. You know how some people have a favorite sweater? That's Betsy to me, but with a lot more horsepower. And lately, she'd been parked outside, exposed to the elements. The harsh sun, the bird gifts, the occasional rogue sprinkler head from the neighbor's yard. My heart ached seeing her like that, unprotected. She deserved better. So, a car cover seemed simple enough. First stop, the local auto parts store. Fluorescent lights buzzing, that faint smell of motor oil and despair? Maybe that was just me anticipating the ordeal ahead. Rows and rows of stuff. I wandered aimlessly, feeling a bit like Alice in Wonderland, only instead of a rabbit hole, I was surrounded by wiper blades and air fresheners. Finally, I found them. The car covers. A wall of gray, tan, and more gray. Like a dystopian fashion show for cars. They all felt cheap, thin, flimsy, like they'd disintegrate in the first strong wind. And the sizes? Small, medium, large. What kind of sizing system is that for a car? Betsy is not a medium. She's a unique snowflake. Defeated, I retreated. Next stop, the internet. Ah, the vast, limitless world of online shopping. Surely, the perfect car cover was hiding somewhere in the digital ether. Hours. I spent hours scrolling through websites, comparing fabrics, reading reviews, so many reviews about ripped seams and faded colors, and trying to decipher cryptic size charts. Was Betsy a 5L? A 6XL? I felt like I needed a degree in automotive textiles. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I found it. The one. A beautiful, custom-fit car cover, made of breathable, weatherproof fabric, in a gorgeous, deep red that would perfectly complement Betsy's paint job. The price? Well, let's just say it was more than I'd planned on spending. But for Betsy? Worth it. I clicked, buy now, with a triumphant flourish. Victory. A week later, the package arrived. A huge, heavy box. Excitement bubbled inside me. I practically ripped the box open. And there it was, a crumpled mass of something. It looked less like a car cover and more like a giant, red parachute that had lost a fight with a washing machine. I unfolded it gingerly, my heart sinking with each crinkle and crease. It was enormous. Like, big enough to cover a small yacht. And the material, it felt like a cheap plastic tablecloth. This was not the luxurious, custom-fit cover I had ordered. This was a fraud. I checked the order confirmation. The website. The product description. Everything seemed right. Except it wasn't. Then, in small, almost invisible print, I saw it. Generic fit. Size. XXL. Generic fit? XXL? My carefully chosen, custom-fit cover had morphed into a generic, oversized monstrosity. I slumped onto the floor, defeated. The red parachute thing lay beside me, mocking me with its cheapness. I could have cried. Actually, I think I did shed a tear or two. All that time, all that effort, all that money, for this. I imagined Betsy, smothered under this ridiculous, ill-fitting monstrosity, and I shuddered. But you know what? I'm not one to give up easily. I took a deep breath, gathered the red parachute thing, and marched back to my computer. This time, armed with a newfound determination and a healthy dose of skepticism, I dove back into the online car cover jungle. I read every review, scrutinized every size chart, and cross-referenced every specification. I learned more about car cover fabrics and fitting techniques than I ever thought possible. I became a car cover connoisseur, a veritable expert in the field. You could say I earned my PhD in car coverology. Finally, after another marathon browsing session, I found it. A different website, a different brand, a different car cover. This one looked promising. The reviews were glowing, the description was detailed, and the size chart actually made sense. It was even slightly less expensive than the red parachute thing. Cautiously optimistic, I clicked, buy now. Another week passed, filled with nervous anticipation. Then, the box arrived. Smaller this time, more compact. I held my breath as I opened it. And there it was. A beautiful, deep red car cover, folded neatly, the fabric soft and supple to the touch. I unfolded it carefully, my heart pounding. It was perfect. The size, the fit, the material, everything was exactly as described. I could practically hear Betsy sighing with relief. The next day, I carefully draped the new cover over Betsy. It fit like a glove, snug and secure, protecting her from the elements without smothering her beauty. I stepped back to admire my handiwork, a wave of satisfaction washing over me. It had been a long and arduous journey, filled with setbacks and frustrations. But in the end, Betsy had the cover she deserved. So, what's the moral of the story? Well, I guess it's that even something as seemingly simple as buying a car cover can turn into an adventure. And that sometimes, the hardest things are the most rewarding. But mostly, it's that. Betsy is worth it. She's my baby, after all. And who wouldn't go to the ends of the earth, or the internet, for their baby? You know what I mean? Now, tell me about your week. Anything as exciting as a car cover saga? I doubt it. Just kidding, mostly. Winking face. Okay. So grab a cuppa. Settle in. Because this is a story, a saga even, about my epic battle with a guitar. Now, I wasn't always musically inclined, you know? I was more of a bookworm, nose always stuck in some fantasy novel, dreaming of dragons and faraway lands. Music? Meh. It was just there. Background noise. Until one summer afternoon. I was probably around 13, sprawled on the living room floor, tragically bored, when I heard it. This sound, coming from my older brother's room. It wasn't his usual angsty grunge, it was something melodic. Intriguing. I crept towards the door, peeked through a crack, and there he was, bathed in the warm glow of the setting sun, hunched over his acoustic guitar. His fingers danced across the strings, clumsy but determined. And the melody he was playing, it was Wonderwall. Now, don't judge me, it was the 90s, okay? Everyone was obsessed. I was mesmerized. The way the music filled the room, the concentration on his face, the sheer magic of creating something beautiful out of thin air. It was like witnessing a secret ritual, a connection to something bigger. Right then and there, something shifted inside me. I wanted to do that. I wanted to create that magic. So, naturally, I barged in. Teach me, I demanded, probably dripping with preteen drama. My brother, bless his cotton socks, just chuckled and ruffled my hair. All right, but it's not as easy as it looks, squirt. He showed me a few basic chords. C, G, D. My fingers, used to turning pages, not contorting into unnatural shapes, protested loudly. They fumbled, they stumbled, they refused to cooperate. It felt like wrestling a particularly stubborn octopus. The strings dug into my fingertips, leaving angry red marks. My brother, bless his heart again, tried to be patient, but even he started to get a little exasperated. Relax your hand, he'd say, gently adjusting my grip. No, not like that. Like this. Oh, the frustration. I wanted to throw the guitar across the room, stomp on it, maybe even set it on fire. But something kept me going. That memory of the sound, of the feeling the music evoked. I wanted to experience that again, not just as a listener, but as a creator. So I persevered. For weeks, I practiced those 3 chords religiously. Every spare moment I had, I was hunched over that guitar, my fingers aching, my ears ringing with the discordant twangs and plunks. It sounded less like Wonderwall and more like a wounded cat. My family probably considered soundproofing the house. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, things started to change. My fingers began to find their place on the fretboard. The chords started to sound less wrong. One day, while practicing in my room, I managed to play the entire chord progression of Wonderwall, without messing up. It wasn't perfect, mind you, but it was recognizable. It was music. I burst out of my room, guitar in hand, a triumphant grin plastered across my face. Listen, I yelled, strumming the chords with newfound confidence. My family, probably traumatized by weeks of sonic torture, looked apprehensive. But as the familiar melody filled the air, their expressions softened. My brother, bless him yet again, actually smiled. Not bad, squirt. Not bad at all. That feeling, that sense of accomplishment, it was intoxicating. It was more than just playing a song. It was about overcoming a challenge, about expressing myself in a way I never thought possible. I was hooked. From then on, the guitar became my constant companion. I devoured every guitar magazine I could find, learning new chords, new techniques, new songs. I joined a band with some friends in high school. We were, let's just say, enthusiastic, rather than talented. We played in garages, basements, and the occasional, highly prestigious, school talent show. We butchered classic rock anthems, wrote terrible original songs, and generally made a glorious racket. There were setbacks, of course. Times when I felt stuck, frustrated, convinced I'd reached my musical peak, which, let's be honest, was probably still somewhere in the vicinity of a slightly better than average Wonderwall rendition. I struggled with bar chords for months. You know, those evil chords that require you to press down all 6 strings with one finger? Torture, I tell you. Pure torture. But even in those moments of frustration, I never completely gave up. Because beneath the struggle, there was always that underlying joy, that connection to the music. The feeling of my fingers dancing across the strings, the vibrations resonating through my body, the satisfaction of creating something beautiful, even if it was just for myself. And you know what? It wasn't just about the music itself. It was about the journey. The hours spent practicing, the blisters on my fingertips, the embarrassing mistakes, the small victories. They all became part of my story. They shaped me, challenged me, and ultimately, helped me discover a passion I never knew I had. So, here I am, years later, still strumming away. I'm not a professional musician, not even close. But the guitar is still my sanctuary, my creative outlet, my way of connecting with something bigger than myself. It's a reminder of that 13-year-old girl who, armed with nothing but a battered acoustic and a whole lot of determination, set out to conquer Wonderwall. And, you know what? In a way, she did. She conquered more than just a song. She conquered her own self-doubt, her own limitations. And that, my friend, is a story worth singing about. So, how about another cup of tea? And then maybe I can show you a few chords. You never know. You might just have a hidden rock star inside you too. Winking face. Learning a new language can feel like climbing a mountain. But remember this. Start small, speak often, grow big. Think about it. You don't start by scaling the entire peak in one go, right? You begin with small steps, practicing regularly, and before you know it, you're standing at the top, amazed at how far you've come. Building fluency in English is the same. Every small conversation, every new word learned, takes you closer to your goal. Believe in yourself, and the journey will be enjoyable. And you know what? Here's a fun, easy way to practice speaking every day. Describe a painting or artwork. Maybe you're cooking dinner and there's a print on your kitchen wall, or you spot a cool mural during your walk. Just take a moment to describe it aloud. The colors, the shapes, the story it tells. It's a simple exercise that helps you build vocabulary and practice sentence structure without even realizing you're studying. Honestly, it feels like magic. Noticing others speaking better and feeling inferior is something I think we all experience. It's so easy to compare ourselves to others, especially when learning something new. You might understand perfectly when someone else speaks English, but when it's your turn, you suddenly freeze. It's a common feeling, and it's totally okay. Remember, everyone's language journey is unique, and comparison only steals your joy. You will not believe what happened next. I was talking to a friend the other day who's also been learning English, and they shared how much more confident they feel now. Their story really got me thinking. What's the biggest improvement you've noticed in your English skills? Share your wins in the comments. Let's celebrate each other's progress. Okay. So, picture this. Me, completely clueless in a kitchen, attempting to make pani puri. Pani puri, you know? Those little crispy hollow balls filled with spiced potatoes and dipped in that tangy, minty water? Yeah, that's what I thought I could conquer. It was a disaster, a glorious, messy, hilarious disaster. And it all started with a street food stall in Mumbai. You see, I'm not Indian. Not even close. I grew up on, like, spaghetti and meatballs, not samosas and chai. But I love Indian food. It's an obsession, really. And street food? Oh, street food is a whole other level of delicious chaos. So, there I was, in Mumbai, on a trip that changed my culinary life. Or at least, my attempts at it. The air was thick with humidity and the aroma of spices, cardamom, cumin, coriander, all swirling together in a heady mix. The streets were buzzing, a symphony of honking cars, chattering vendors, and the sizzle of something delicious being cooked on every corner. I was in sensory overload, in the best possible way. I stumbled upon this tiny stall, barely bigger than a closet, overflowing with people. They were all crowding around this guy, his hands moving with lightning speed, assembling pani puri like a magician. The crisp spheres were getting filled, dipped, and devoured in seconds. The sheer speed, the precision, the sheer joy on everyone's faces. I was mesmerized. Right then and there, I decided. I had to learn how to make this. I mean, how hard could it be, right? Famous last words. I managed to chat with the pani puri maestro, a kind-faced man with a twinkle in his eye. He probably saw the sheer determination, or maybe delusion, on my face because he agreed to give me a quick crash course. Mind you, this was a quick lesson amidst the chaos of a busy street food stall. He spoke mostly Hindi, which I understood maybe 5% of, so there was a lot of gesturing and enthusiastic nodding from my side. He showed me the puri, thin and crispy, like little edible bowls. He pointed to the potato mixture, spiced with, well, a whole bunch of things I couldn't identify at the time. And then, the pani. Oh, the pani. That magical, tangy water, a vibrant green, swirling with mint, tamarind, and who knows what other secret ingredients. He let me try filling a puri. My hands, clumsy and unfamiliar, fumbled. The puri cracked. The filling spilled. The pani splashed everywhere. The stall owner chuckled, a warm, friendly chuckle, and patiently showed me again. This happened several times. I'm pretty sure I was holding up his entire operation, but he remained incredibly patient. Bless his soul. I returned to my little apartment in Mumbai armed with a vague understanding of the process and a burning desire to recreate the magic. The next day, I hit the local market. This was another adventure in itself. The market was a riot of colors, smells, and sounds. Vendors were shouting, people were bartering, chickens were clucking. It was a far cry from my sterile supermarket back home. I managed to find most of the ingredients, thanks to a combination of broken Hindi, pointing, and miming. I'm sure the vendors had a good laugh at my expense. Back in my kitchen, reality hit. I had no idea what I was doing. I had a bag of puris, a mountain of potatoes, and a vague recollection of the spice blend. I started with the potatoes. I boiled them, mashed them, and then panicked. How much of what spice went in? I winged it. I added a pinch of this, a dash of that, basically threw everything at the wall and hoped something would stick. You know what I mean? The pani was even more intimidating. I had mint, tamarind paste, chili powder, but in what proportions? I felt like a mad scientist, mixing and tasting, adjusting and grimacing. My first batch was so sour it could have curled your hair. The second was so spicy it made my eyes water. The third, well, let's just say it tasted vaguely like pond water. Finally, after several failed attempts, I managed to create something resembling the pani I'd tasted at the stall. It wasn't perfect, not even close, but it was edible, sort of. With trembling hands, I assembled my first pani puri. I filled the puri, dipped it in the pani, and took a bite. It wasn't the explosion of flavors I'd experienced at the stall. It was okay. The puri was a bit soggy, the filling a little bland, the pani a tad too spicy. But you know what? It was mine. I'd made it from scratch. And in that moment, I felt a little surge of pride. Guess what happened next? I invited some friends over for a pani puri party. They were brave souls, those friends. They politely ate my slightly soggy, slightly bland, slightly too spicy pani puri and praised my efforts. Okay, maybe they were just being nice. But it didn't matter. I was hooked. I kept practicing. I experimented with different spice blends, different pani recipes. I watched countless YouTube videos, read blogs, even called my Indian friend's mom for advice. Slowly, gradually, my pani puri started to resemble the real deal. It wasn't perfect, but it was getting there. The kitchen, once a place of intimidation and confusion, became my playground. I started branching out, trying other street food favorites. Samosas, bel puri, sev puri. Each dish presented a new challenge, a new opportunity to learn, to experiment, to fail, and to eventually succeed. And you know what the best part is? It's not just about the food. It's about the connection to a different culture, a different way of life. It's about the memories of that bustling Mumbai street, the kind-faced stall owner, the explosion of flavors that started it all. So, yeah, my journey into the world of Indian street food started with a disastrous attempt at pani puri. It was messy, it was frustrating, it was hilarious. But it was also the beginning of something beautiful. It was the beginning of a culinary adventure, a cultural exploration, and a deep appreciation for the magic that happens when simple ingredients come together to create something truly extraordinary. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm suddenly craving some pani puri. Fancy trying my latest batch? I promise, it's much better than the pond water version. So, okay, you will not believe what happened to me the other day. It all started with a smoothie. A smoothie, right? Seems harmless enough. But let me tell you, this smoothie was a journey. A culinary adventure, a comedy of errors, well, you'll see. It was a Saturday morning, sun streaming through the kitchen window, birds chirping. You know, the idyllic scene. I was feeling all healthy and motivated, decided to try out a new smoothie recipe I'd seen online. This wasn't just any smoothie, mind you. It was a green goddess detoxifying super smoothie. The picture showed this vibrant, emerald green concoction, practically glowing with health. I was sold. I gathered my ingredients: spinach, kale, cucumber, ginger, a green apple, some lemon juice. And then came the interesting part. Spirulina. Have you ever worked with spirulina? It's this dark green, almost blue-green powder that's supposed to be incredibly good for you. But honestly, it smells earthy. Like pond bottom earthy. I wrinkled my nose a bit, but I was committed. Health is wealth, right? So, I crammed everything into my trusty blender. It's this old thing, a hand-me-down from my grandma. It's seen better days, a little chipped and scratched, but it still works like a charm, most of the time. I poured in some almond milk, put the lid on tight, or so I thought, and hit the button. The blender whirred to life, a low growl at first, then escalating to a high-pitched whine. I watched the ingredients swirl together, a murky green vortex. It wasn't quite the vibrant emerald I'd envisioned, but hey, healthy doesn't always mean pretty, right? And then, kaboom! Okay, not kaboom like an explosion, but more like the PFFFT. The lid, apparently not as secure as I'd believed, decided to liberate itself from the blender. And the smoothie? Well, let's just say it redecorated my kitchen. Green. Everywhere. Green splattered on the walls. Green dripping from the cabinets. Green coating the ceiling fan. My white shirt? Now a Jackson Pollock-esque masterpiece in shades of green. Even my hair had a few verdant streaks. I stood there, covered in smoothie, the blender still whirring merrily away, a single, defiant kale leaf clinging to my forehead. I think I just stared for a good 5 minutes, completely dumbfounded. The birds outside were still chirping, the sun was still shining, but inside my kitchen, it looked like a swamp monster had thrown a party. You know those moments where you don't know whether to laugh or cry? Yeah, it was one of those. I finally snapped out of my stupor and turned off the blender. The silence that followed was almost deafening. I looked at the mess, took a deep breath, and started laughing. What else could I do? It was truly a ridiculous sight. The cleanup was an experience. Let's just say I spent the next hour scrubbing spirulina off every imaginable surface. My dog, bless his heart, tried to help by licking the smoothie off the floor, which resulted in him having a bright green tongue for the rest of the day. After the kitchen was somewhat back to normal, though I'm pretty sure I'll be finding flecks of green for weeks to come, I decided to salvage what I could of the smoothie. There was still a decent amount left in the blender, albeit looking a little traumatized. I tentatively poured myself a glass, took a sip, and well, it wasn't bad. Actually, it was surprisingly good. The spirulina, despite its fragrant aroma, gave the smoothie a nice earthy undertone. The ginger added a little zing, the apple a touch of sweetness. It was, dare I say, delicious. All that effort, all that mess, and the smoothie was actually worth it. But here's the thing, right? It wasn't just about the smoothie. It was about the whole experience. The anticipation, the explosion, the laughter, the cleanup, the surprisingly satisfying taste at the end. It was a reminder that life is messy, unpredictable, and sometimes hilariously chaotic. And sometimes, the best things come out of the biggest messes. You know, I think we often get so caught up in striving for perfection, for those picture-perfect moments, that we forget to appreciate the beauty of the imperfect. The spilled smoothies, the burnt dinners, the mismatched socks. It's the imperfections that make life interesting, that make it real. So, the next time you're aiming for that perfectly curated Instagram-worthy moment, remember my green smoothie explosion. Embrace the mess. Laugh at the chaos. And who knows? You might just discover something unexpectedly delicious in the process. And let me tell you, I learned a valuable lesson that day. Always double-check the blender lid. Seriously. It's a small thing, but it can save you a lot of green cleaning. Though, on the other hand, maybe I wouldn't have this hilarious story to tell. So, silver linings, right? Silver linings. And maybe a little less spirulina next time. Just maybe. What do you think? Too much? Probably too much. But hey, at least my kitchen was clean, eventually. You should have seen my dog though. Bright green tongue, I'm telling you. Absolutely hilarious. Anyway, what were we talking about? Oh right, smoothies. Dangerous things, those smoothies. Dangerous, but delicious. Learning a new language, especially speaking it, can feel like climbing a mountain, but remember, every day you skip is a chance you miss. Think about it. Each day you practice, even just a little, you're taking another step towards the summit. Those small steps build up, and before you know it, you'll be looking down amazed at how far you've come. You've got this. You know, something I've found really helpful is pretending I'm making a cooking vlog. It's so simple. While you're making dinner or even just a sandwich, talk through the steps in English. Now, I'm chopping the onions, or, next, we add a pinch of salt. It's fun, low pressure, and you get to practice speaking in a natural, everyday context. Plus, who knows, you might discover your hidden talent as a culinary commentator. Trying to remember new words but forgetting them? Oh, believe me, I totally get it. It's like they're right there on the tip of your tongue, but then poof, gone. It's frustrating, I know, but it's a normal part of the process. Don't let it discourage you. The more you encounter those words, the more they'll stick. And you know what? I was just thinking the other day how busy life can get and how hard it can be to squeeze in practice time. How do you practice speaking English when you're busy? I'd love to hear your tips and tricks. I'm sure we can all learn from each other. So, you know how sometimes you get this urge? This sudden, inexplicable need to create something? Well, that's exactly what hit me last Sunday. I woke up, sunlight streaming through the window, birds chirping. You know, one of those mornings, and I just knew. Today, I was making candles. Homemade candles. Had I ever made one before? Nope. Did I have any idea what I was doing? Not a clue. But the idea had taken root, and it was stubbornly refusing to budge. It was like my soul was whispering, candles, candles, candles. So, I did what any self-respecting millennial would do. I Googled it. How to make candles for beginners. And oh boy, did a rabbit hole open up before me. Soy wax, paraffin wax, wicks, fragrance oils, double boilers, thermometers. It was a whole new world. A trip to the craft store was definitely in order. Now, I love craft stores. They're like treasure troves of possibility, right? You walk in thinking you need one thing, and you walk out with an armful of glitter, yarn, and, in my case, enough candle-making supplies to open my own little shop. I chose soy wax because, well, it sounded healthier. and I picked out these adorable little mason jars. I mean, who doesn't love a good mason jar? They're just so rustic chic. Then came the fun part. The scents. Oh my goodness, the scents. Lavender, vanilla, cinnamon, sandalwood. I wanted them all. I ended up choosing a calming lavender for the bedroom and a zesty lemon verbena for the kitchen. I figured, why not cover all the olfactory bases? Back home, my kitchen counter transformed into a makeshift candle-making laboratory. Wax flakes scattered everywhere, wicks standing at attention in their little metal holders, jars sparkling clean and ready to be filled. I felt like a mad scientist, but with a better sense of smell. The first step was melting the wax. Now, the internet had sternly warned me against using a direct flame. Double boiler, it said. So, double boiler it was. I filled a pot with water, placed a glass bowl on top, and gently poured in the soy wax flakes. They looked like little icy chips, shimmering in the sunlight. As the wax melted, the scent of soy filled the kitchen. It wasn't unpleasant, kind of earthy and beany? I guess that's the best way to describe it. Definitely not the lavender fields I was hoping for. But hey, it was all part of the process, right? While the wax was melting, I prepped the jars. I glued the wick stickers to the bottom of the metal wick holders and carefully centered them in each jar. It was surprisingly fiddly work. Those little stickers were determined to stick to everything but the metal. I ended up with a few stuck to my fingers and one stubbornly adhered to my forehead. You know, the usual crafting mishaps. Once the wax was completely melted, I added the fragrance oil. Now, this was the moment of truth. Would my lavender candle actually smell like lavender? Or would it be some weird, synthetic approximation? I poured in the recommended amount, stirring gently with a wooden spoon, and took a deep breath. Oh, my goodness. It smelled divine, like a field of lavender in full bloom. I closed my eyes and imagined myself strolling through those purple rows, the sun warm on my skin, the air thick with fragrance. It was pure bliss. Then came the pouring. I carefully poured the melted wax into each jar, trying not to spill a drop. It was surprisingly satisfying, watching the clear liquid fill the jars, transforming them into something new and beautiful. And then, I waited, and waited, and waited some more. The candles needed to cool and harden completely before I could trim the wicks and light them. It felt like an eternity. I kept peeking at them, checking their progress, like a nervous parent waiting for their child's first steps. Finally, after what felt like days, but was probably just a few hours, the candles were ready. I trimmed the wicks, struck a match, and voila! My very own homemade candles. The lavender candle filled my bedroom with its calming scent, transforming it into a peaceful sanctuary. The lemon verbena candle brightened up the kitchen, adding a touch of zesty freshness to the air. But you know what the best part was? It wasn't just the beautiful candles I had created. It was the process itself. The quiet focus, the creative energy, the satisfaction of making something with my own two hands. It was a reminder that even in our busy, technology-driven lives, there's still joy to be found in simple, analog activities. And the mistakes? The sticky fingers, the beany smell of the melting wax, the impatient peeking? They were all part of the story. They made the experience real, imperfect, and ultimately, more meaningful. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to quit my day job and become a professional candle maker. But who knows? Maybe. Just maybe. For now, though, I'm content with my little batch of homemade candles, a tangible reminder of a Sunday afternoon spent creating something beautiful. So, have you ever tried making candles? You should. It's surprisingly therapeutic. And who knows, you might just discover a hidden talent. Just be prepared for a few sticky fingers and a whole lot of fragrant joy. It's totally worth it, I promise. Now, what kind of tea were we having again? I need a refill after all that candle talk. Okay. So, you know how sometimes you just need to escape? Like, truly escape the everyday grind, the to-do lists, the everything? Well, that's exactly how I felt a few weeks ago. And, I don't know, maybe it was the crisp autumn air, or the way the sunlight was filtering through the trees, but I had this sudden urge to visit a sculpture garden. I'd never been to one before, and it just seemed appealing. You know, I'd heard whispers of this incredible place tucked away about an hour outside the city. The Whispering Pines Sculpture Garden, it was called, which, let me tell you, sounded utterly magical. I envisioned hidden glades and mystical creatures peeking out from behind bronze leaves. Maybe a little too magical, haha. But still, the name alone piqued my curiosity. So, I grabbed my comfiest sweater, that slightly oversized, oatmeal-colored one, my favorite, packed a thermos of hot apple cider, because, autumn, and hit the road. The drive was beautiful. The leaves were just starting to turn those vibrant shades of red and gold, and the air smelled like, well, it smelled like autumn. That mix of crisp air, fallen leaves, and a hint of wood smoke from somewhere far away. Bliss. When I finally arrived, it wasn't quite the mystical forest I'd pictured. It was more structured. Still beautiful, mind you, but in a different way. A wide gravel path wound through meticulously manicured lawns, dotted with these incredible, larger-than-life sculptures. And everywhere, pines. Tall, majestic pines whispering secrets in the breeze. So, the name wasn't entirely inaccurate. The first sculpture I encountered was this. Well, I don't even know how to describe it. It was a towering, abstract piece of twisted metal, reaching towards the sky like a metallic flame, I guess? I walked around it, trying to decipher what the artist was trying to convey. Was it joy, pain, defiance? I honestly couldn't tell, and that's what was so intriguing. It was like a visual riddle, and I was determined to solve it. Further down the path, I stumbled upon a bronze deer, frozen mid-stride. It was so realistic, I half expected it to bolt into the woods at any second. The detail was astonishing. You could see the individual hairs on its coat, the tension in its muscles. I gently touched its smooth, cool flank. It felt strangely alive, even though I knew it wasn't. And then, there was this one sculpture. Oh, this one. It was a woman, carved from white marble, her face tilted upwards as if she were gazing at the sky. Her expression, it was hauntingly beautiful. A mix of sadness and hope, vulnerability and strength. I sat on a nearby bench, just looking at her, lost in thought. Who was she? What was her story? I felt this weird connection to her, even though she was just a piece of marble. Does that sound strange? Guess what happened next? I actually started talking to her. Whispering my thoughts, my worries, my dreams. It felt cathartic. Like I was confiding in an old friend. I know, I probably looked a little crazy, talking to a statue. But honestly, I didn't care. It felt right. As I continued my stroll, I discovered all sorts of hidden gems. A whimsical collection of bronze frogs playing leapfrog, a giant spider crafted from recycled materials, a series of wind chimes that sang a gentle melody in the breeze. Each piece had its own personality, its own story to tell. At one point, I came across a small, almost hidden grove. A narrow path led through a thicket of trees to a clearing where a single sculpture stood. It was a simple, unassuming piece, a smooth, gray stone shaped like a teardrop. But there was something about it, something magnetic. I sat down beside it, feeling a sense of peace wash over me. The sunlight dappled through the leaves, creating this ethereal glow around the stone. It was like a sacred space, a place of quiet contemplation. I stayed there for a long time, just breathing, just being. You know, I went to the sculpture garden expecting to admire art, to be impressed by the craftsmanship. And I was, don't get me wrong. But what I didn't expect was to feel so moved, so connected to the art, to nature, to myself. It was like the sculptures unlocked something within me. They gave me permission to feel, to reflect, to simply be. There was this one particularly funny moment. I was so engrossed in studying this rather abstract piece. It looked a bit like a giant, metal pretzel, if I'm being honest, that I completely missed the small, roped-off area surrounding it. And, well, I tripped. Not a graceful trip, mind you. A full-on, arms flailing, almost face-planted kind of trip. Luckily, I caught myself, at the last second, narrowly avoiding a collision with the pretzel. My heart was racing, and I'm sure my face was bright red. But then I started laughing. It was just so ridiculous. And you know what? No one saw. Except maybe the giant pretzel. Which, I'm pretty sure, isn't going to tell anyone. After a while, the sun started to set, painting the sky in these breathtaking shades of orange and pink. I knew it was time to leave, but I didn't want to. I felt this strange reluctance, like I was leaving a part of myself behind. As I walked back to my car, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. A small plaque near the entrance. It read, "Art speaks where words are unable to explain." And it hit me. That's exactly what had happened. The sculptures had spoken to me in a language I didn't even know I understood. They had told me stories, evoked emotions, sparked questions. They had made me feel alive. The drive home was quiet. I was still processing everything I'd seen and felt. And I realized something else. I hadn't checked my phone once. Not once. In today's hyper-connected world, that's practically a miracle. It was like the sculpture garden had cast a spell, silencing the noise of the outside world and allowing me to reconnect with myself. So, yeah, that was my day at the sculpture garden. It wasn't what I expected, but it was exactly what I needed. It was a reminder to slow down, to appreciate the beauty around me, to listen to the whispers of my own heart. And you know what? I think everyone needs a day like that every now and then. A day to get lost in art, in nature, in the quiet corners of their own minds. Maybe you should try it sometime. You might be surprised at what you discover. Hey everyone, thank you so much for hanging out with me and watching this video. I really appreciate you spending your time here and staying connected. If you enjoyed this and want to keep up with our daily English speaking and listening practice, I'd love it if you would follow, like, subscribe, and share this video so you don't miss out on anything. You know, before we go, it made me wonder, any food you've been craving lately that you'll finally order? It is always so lovely to hear what everyone is thinking about, and it's a great way to practice writing and sharing your thoughts in English. It's such a fun way to connect. See you tomorrow, and remember to take care, stay consistent with your practice, and have a wonderful rest of your day.